Right, so Chelsea 2, Liverpool 1. Obviously a very, very disappointing result to lose in basically the final minute of the game. Probably something that we've been doing to other teams, to be honest, instead of falling victim to. But 3 losses on the bounce now. Everyone's starting to panic. Everyone's going, oh my God, slot out. And there's, a lot of, I would say, those fans on social media that are probably just engagement farming on Twitter, to be honest, calling for a crisis, calling for slot out. Lots of blame being thrown around. But to be honest, I think all season, really, I would say realistically, we've been winning in the last minute of games quite often. And I think we're probably seeing a bit of that transitional period that everyone probably expected to happen last season finally setting in. I think when you look at the squad from last season, basically just Jurgen Klopp's squad that he started to rebuild before he left. And now with Slot bringing in 6 or 7 new players, and a lot of them are first team players, or at the very least should be probably playing in the first team. There's been quite a significant amount of transition. And I think we're finally starting to see that. Kirkes has been very unsettled. I think he's been a little bit better in the past few games, even though we've lost. But he was very, very frantic at the start of the season. We've also got the Bradley Frimpong debate. It seems like Slot's been trying to fit Szoboszlai into the team, probably to accommodate Wirtz further up the pitch. But then obviously we're losing that kind of amazing midfield that we had last season, the incredible balance of McAllister, Gravenberch and Szoboszlai in the midfield, that incredible work rate and pressing of Szoboszlai, being in that kind of 10 position and basically being that fourth forward that presses onto the back four. Really, things have been a bit transitional and a bit weird over the course of this season. And I think something that a lot of people haven't really mentioned until Van Dijk actually mentioned it after yesterday's game, the hangover and also the feeling of unease at the club surrounding Jota still. I think as soon as the thing with Jota happened, I immediately wrote this season off because I just thought it would impact the players so much that you'd probably just be in a situation where you'd be like, it's going to be really difficult to concentrate. And I think actually the players have done really well considering that's obviously happened, because it's only been 3 months since it all occurred and we've gone into a new season, done pretty well. But I think when you look at some of the performances of some of the key players, Konate this season has been very questionable, and I think with good reason, considering the amount of poor performances that he's put in a row. He seems very distracted. You've got Salah, who looks like a real shadow of himself right now. He was like crying after the first game, everyone doing the Jota song after the first game, which was really touching, but it's also a testament to potentially where a lot of the players' heads are at, and people are not really giving them any credit about it whatsoever. They're just going, well, the performances and the results were coming in, so people were just not really mentioning it. But I think it's definitely something that's going to have an impact on the team. And like I said, I definitely wrote the season off really before the season even began, because I just thought it would be a massive mental toll. And obviously we're starting to see, in my opinion, I think throughout the season, there's been massive parts of games where players have looked very off for no real reason, or they've basically just been looking very distracted, making silly mistakes. The past few games has been, we've gave the ball away an unbelievable amount of times for free, very, very cheaply. Konate in the last 3 games, for example, I think he's gave the ball away about 30 times, which is very, very unlike him. Last season, he was very solid, made very few mistakes. Obviously, Van Dijk is still very consistent, in my opinion, and very solid, but he's kind of compensating for Konate giving away the ball a lot, making a lot of mistakes. The midfield just doesn't look right at the minute. It looks like we reverted back to that McAllister, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai midfield against Chelsea, and it did look a bit better in ways, but at the same time, we still just didn't really seem like we had that edge, that pressing, that tenacity to go and win the ball back. I was watching a clip, for example, of last season, or it was a season before. I think someone posted a McAllister compilation saying he'll be back to his best soon. And I was watching it and I was looking at the team, not just McAllister, but the team as well. And I was just thinking, there was such a spark, a zip, an intensity about the pressing, the running. Everything just looked like it had that extra yard of pace. The ball was moving around quicker. And I just think we haven't really done that this season. And obviously there's a bunch of things that you can use to rationalise that. Like I said, in my opinion, I think the Jota situation is impacting the team much more than people have even really talked about at all until Van Dijk mentioned it yesterday, like I said. But also the transition period of all these new players coming in. Like I said, Kirkes has not really settled that well. He's been a lot better, in my opinion, in the past few games. A lot less frantic. But also, you have to look at Frimpong. He's not really getting trusted to play. I think, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, obviously, I think Frimpong was more brought in also because he's played at wing-back for Leverkusen as a right wing-back, not really a right-back. You could see that he's much more of a winger than a defender. So in my opinion, it was much more likely. Obviously, we've got Salah going to the AFCON. God knows how long, maybe 2 months in December or however long it is. So he's going to miss like 10 games or something. And I think Frimpong was brought in basically to cover for Salah as well. I thought Frimpong, actually, when we played against Galatasaray, that game, by the way, the refereeing, one of the worst refereeing performances I've ever seen. I mean, that handball penalty decision was absolutely atrocious. And they really didn't create anything else apart from that. By the way, the ball was in play for like 10 minutes of the second half. We should have had about half an hour of added time, to be honest. Absolute joke of a game in general. I mean, it was so frustrating to watch. But anyway, in that game, Frimpong was actually, I thought he was actually one of our best players in that first 20, 30 minutes when we were actually passing the ball forward, playing people in. I mean, he beat his man basically every single time because he's got the insane pace. They basically can't stop him. And I think if you could get the ball to Frimpong, those big diagonals from Van Dijk, or just playing that ball through the channel for Frimpong in behind as well. I thought Frimpong was really dangerous in that game. And I felt like if you just gave him the ball about 10, 15 times down that wing, he was beating his man crossing the ball in. I genuinely thought like he looked like a really good winger and he was creating a lot of chaos and potentially he could create a lot of chances if they just work on him a bit more for those crosses into Isak or Ekitike. Also Gakpo this season for me. He's been, I know in terms of raw stats, he's created the most chances probably out of all of our players, but he just looks so lethargic. His link-up play has been really, really poor in my opinion. And I think we're really missing that Luis Diaz kind of player that's really just a really, really aggressive, bustly, will go and, you know, just charge down a player, get after people. But by the same token, obviously, it's easy to just complain. But Liverpool have still won 5 games. Did we draw one as well? No, we lost 2. We've won 5, lost 2 in the Premier League. Won 1, lost 1 in the Champions League. I don't think we're that far off it, to be honest. A lot of people are catastrophising, going, oh my God, this is it, slot out, full rebuild, blah, blah, blah. We're not going to be nowhere near title contenders, blah, blah, blah. But I don't think the team is that far away from being good. Just in that period at the minute where we're trying to bed those new players in. I think Bradley's looked a bit uncomfortable as well. I'm not sure if that's just because he needs a good run of games, because last season when Trent was injured, Bradley had like a run of like 10 games? Was it January, February time? Or something like that. And he looked really good, Bradley did. I was thinking we are not going to miss Trent at all if he leaves, because Bradley looked really good. Much more traditional, obviously. Buccaneering, running up and down the flank. But I thought he looked really good defensively last season. It looks like everyone's just a bit unsettled this season. That right-hand side of Konate and Bradley. I mean, he's been trying to play Szoboszlai in there, like I said, probably trying to get Szoboszlai in the team because he wants that run-in that Szoboszlai gives, but he wants to accommodate Wirtz in the team as well. He obviously chose to revert back to the original idea from last season against Chelsea. And honestly, I thought we looked quite a lot more solid, but there were definitely periods, like for the first goal, where Gravenberch he looks out of position to me. I mean, he's supposed to be playing 4-2-3-1. You've got McAllister here. You've got they've got basically 2 of their players here and here. Gravenberch is advanced beyond the player that he should be basically goal side of. And then the ball comes into McAllister. They get past him way too easy, you think. And then the thing is as well, fair enough, obviously, Chelsea are a good team. They played well. I thought they played pretty well. I didn't think they were insanely good. I thought they were okay. I thought they did all the right things. They obviously kept targeting that right-back position. Garnacho was obviously throwing himself on the floor at any given opportunity to get anything he could out of Bradley, which I think is why Slot subbed him off, because he was worried about him getting sent off. But by the same token, when Chelsea made these dangerous situations, like that one for the first goal when Caicedo scored, the ball turns over to Caicedo, he beats McAllister, and then you've got McAllister and Gravenberch who are way up the pitch like this. Caicedo's running in on the back 4, and they're basically jogging back. I mean, they were basically walking back after they'd both been out of position and beaten. McAllister gets turned, there's about a 2 or 3 second period where Caicedo's running towards the back four. Van Dijk and Konate are both just running away from him, by the way. I think probably one of them should have gone, at least tried to get a bit closer to him. I know that's how Van Dijk defends, but I mean, and in fairness, the goal was an absolute rocket as well. You're not expecting the keeper to save those kinds of chances, to be honest, especially when it's your second keeper. But I think they could have done more to prevent that situation. I think the goal at the end as well, that was probably just due to a lot of fatigue. But again, that was them getting in down the right, squaring the ball. And then Robertson's got caught on the back post when probably should have been a bit tighter to his man as well. But there's lots of little bits in there, lots of little situations where you think if they were just a bit more sharp, if there was a bit more intensity to get back, maybe McAllister, if he was had a bit, maybe he's a bit injured still. He's not been right this whole season either. McAllister's been a real miss from the McAllister of last season, this season as well. There's a whole bunch of situations and little bits like that where you just think they're just not quite right. McAllister definitely, I felt like when he got turned for that Caicedo goal, I really felt like he could have sprinted back and maybe got a bit of a challenge in, or at least maybe just like bumped into him a little bit to put him off. But he basically had a free shot on goal, and like, fair play, it was a great goal. I didn't have any complaints when it went in. I was like, wow, that's a really good goal. But by the same token, when I looked at the replays, I'm thinking Gravenberch is way out of position. They've basically got two midfielders in that half space between the defenders and the midfielders. Once they turn McAllister, they're both the wrong side of the goal. The defence are just running away from the ball. You need those midfielders to be in and around those people that are taking those shots from outside the goal. So overall, my thoughts on the game, I don't think we're that far off it. I don't think it's as much of a catastrophe as everyone's making out. But by the same token, I think also there's definitely some bits in there that can be improved. I think the overall intensity of the squad, there seems to be a lethargy around some of the play, the passing, some of them just giving the ball away so cheaply. We need to find ways of keep retaining the possession these tough games, not only retaining the ball, but also taking the pressure off of ourselves. And then when there's periods when we have the ball, the build-up is really slow. There's not much intensity to the moving into spaces, those kind of things that at Feyenoord, Slot was absolutely infamous for those pass and move situations where players have passed through the lines, run and then receive the ball and come through the lines like that. And it just doesn't feel like we've seen any of that really this season. A lot of the goals have been quite scrappy. There doesn't seem to be like a clear style of play. Everyone just looks a bit out of it really, and it is a bit concerning. But I don't think it's a full-on crisis. I think we're just going through a kind of a period where we're trying to got all these really amazing good new players. Ekitike's been really good. He's basically scored in every single game that he's played in. He's been really, really solid. I thought, by the way, when he came on, him linking the play, he did flick a few nice balls around the corner, one for Gakpo. He definitely did have that nice link-up play. Obviously, we've got Isak, who is an amazing striker, but he's not being given the ball at all in the areas that he needs it. We need to be feeding the ball into him in behind. There was 4 or 5 times where Salah had the ball in behind and he could have played the ball in that simple early ball into the channel between the keeper and the defence where Isak could run onto it, and he didn't do it. He held onto the ball a few times and then skied it over the bar when really you would think the Salah that we all know and love would just usually at least hit the target. There was 2 or 3 different instances in the game where he had the ball in the box or near the edge of the box on his left foot and he just basically missed by a massive margin. So there's definitely a few things going wrong. It's obviously down to Slot to fix it, but I think it's not a major crisis. And we go again.